while we're kind of vamping and waiting for our packages. So we'll do the end of the meeting. So John can review progress on Adams Street along with the other LBI Land Bank Initiative rehabs that we're almost complete with as well.
So everyone can see, basically, we've got Adams Street on the top. We've got a total of 12 homes at this point. We have all 12 foundations in the ground, and we have 10 of the homes framed up. We have 7 of them drywalled inside, and we're actually starting to put carpet into one of them. So things are moving fairly well on it. Where our hope is to have 2 of them, 590 and 578, ready to be shown by the end of this month. We're kind of working with the contractor right now. So if everything works out well, we'll have the realtor in for 590 and 578 to start showing, to start the lottery for that.
Well, that'll just be actually what the realtor is going to do. If you remember, we're working with MMB Realty. They're a minority. Hey, Quebec, how are you? You're just doing some informational stuff while we're waiting. So MMB is actually going to stage the first 2 properties that are completed. So we'll have a single story and a 2-story ready. So they're going to do professional staging on both and then start walking through their potential clients so everybody can get a really good idea about the different styles of the homes. So they'll stage and show through the month of October and November, certainly, before their version of the lottery starts. So that's exciting. Any questions about Adams Street?
What's the sale prices at Adams?
The same as the sale prices, which is 243.
242,660.
Thank you. 242,660. They're all 3
styles. Oh.
They're all 3. There's actually 3 different styles, but they're all 3-bedroom. So they're all 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom. There's 2 different 2-story styles. They're sort of mirrors of each other. And then there is a bungalow style 3-4. They all have 1.5 car garages and green driveways and basements.
What are the 2 that are coming up first? Are they the same style or
Yeah.
they're different? Okay.
Yep. A 1-story and a 2-story. So they can stage them and, so people can get a good idea about both. We also welcomed our grant manager from Albany this past Friday, who came in, Crystal Leffler. We took her on pretty much a grand tour of everything we were working on. They were really impressed. HCR has also hired another statewide land bank initiative grant manager, and they will be working here in Buffalo. So we met Stephanie Mayer. She was the housing director at Evergreen Services. She's going to be working in the electric tower hybrid. Are you familiar with Stephanie?
Yes, we know Stephanie.
Okay, great. And I'll introduce you guys in a second. So Stephanie started she started full-time this Monday. She's great. We're excited. So she's right down the street from us. So that'll be really nice to have her. And then just to introduce our guests today who will be coming up, we have Sandy Becker and Karen Hausnecht from Belmont Resources. So when we start our meeting today, we will be hearing from them. And I think, and that was good timing. So we just did the executive director's report. And we have John Sid ready on our call. And any other questions at all about the house construction process, schedules, updates, pictures? Seems like everybody's getting informed. Well,
why don't we begin the official part of the meeting then? We do have a quorum present. The sign-in sheet has worked its way around. Without everyone having print copies of the minutes, is there any preference that we proceed with working on the approval of the minutes, or would you prefer to wait until we do have some?
Is anybody missing an official package? Everybody's got it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure we have the.
And just for clarification, if you remember, the board had tabled the March minutes and the most recent minutes. There was the discussion about whether they should all be on video, whether we should have written minutes, and the decision was that we really should have both, a hybrid. So we've now got, and Matt maybe can also jump in to explain, we now have a hybrid of minutes that are written, but also on our website, there is a recorded meeting connected to YouTube. So a bit of a hybrid of both, anybody who wants to check them out.
If I may, because you were kind enough to give me a package here, I just have, and I can't quite tell which meeting this is. Because it has the approval of February 2025
So
minutes.
that's March.
It is March, because I have two copies of March.
Yeah, I don't think July is in the packet. I'm.
That was the issue we were having with the printing, so we may have to table, again, we can adopt March. But we would still continue to have the July minutes table, does that sound right?
I do have access to the drive. Yeah. We could review the March minutes in the drive.
Well, the March is the one that
Or
was.
sorry, July. It's a July minutes are. But
I mean, for now, my preference would be we could vote on the March ones and just hold off on July. I don't think that's. Unless somebody speaks otherwise to it. What's the pleasure of the board regarding the March minutes?
make a motion to approve.
Thank you. We have the motion. Was there a seconded?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Treasurer's report for July and August 2025.
Okay, that is page 6 and 7 in your package, and as you can see, there has been a tremendous amount of activity that's been going on related to both, our art project and all the other rehabs that we have. So we have the accounts at the bottom of page 6. We have everything divided, separate accounts for City of Buffalo ARPA, separate accounts for Erie County ARPA, a utilities account, CDs, treasuries, and everyday checking. In total, our balance at the end of July 2025 at $16,495,649.49. And then on page 7, we have all of those same expenses that are connected to our different projects, and that was requested by Chairman Bileski, so you could get a better idea of where all these expenses are going to.
And that was 45 cents. Just you said 49. So that was.
Oh,
I know, but it's just like 49. 45, yeah.
got it. Thank you.
Any questions?
Page 8, and again, page 8, we have the August 2025 Treasury report, and basically the same division, same accounts, and the balance at $16,440,796.11.
Questions? There's one budget report.
Thanks to our treasurer, who's been approving expenses almost daily now on a daily basis, and he is also reviewing the Visa account as requested. So he's putting in some extra time. So thanks to him.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes, I am. Is there a second? Second, thank you, Mary. Anything on the question? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Unless there's an objection, just to get it out of the way, could we go to the disposition first and then come back to the? Okay, because that's the only thing that's remaining, right?
It is. Yep. Well, let's do our disposition. So if everybody can turn to page 11 in your package, and then if we can your attention on the screen, I'll give you a little bit of context. We'd like to dispose of 702 Norfolk Avenue in Buffalo today. This is a neighborhood in the Kensington Bailey neighborhood, single family home, 1,050 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. The rehabilitation was funded through our land bank initiative grant. The contractor we did find to do the house, is a MWB contractor, Daryl Fountain of Aurora Window Systems and Contracting. Daryl is somebody who we started off probably 5 to 6 years ago, maybe even longer, doing small, window projects really, and somebody who's really, grown to begin to do, absolutely full rehabs for us. So John oversaw this rehab. Can you go to the next slide, please? Little before and after, I believe we have a little more.
That was after the porch had been demolished. There you go. That's before and after.
So very,
Looks great. Yeah.
really, it really did. I like, and the siding, and the color looks great. And one more picture, next one, please.
Is that venting up top, functional or is that just decorative?
It is functional and decorative.
Um, before and after the kitchen, and we did a nice job, right? We took down a wall to really just create a better opening between the kitchen and the dining room. It is a really small house, but it became very good space. And I think we have one more. Now. Well, before and after, and next we do have bathrooms. Looking good. We do have we have a number of offers on the property. So this property was listed on August 1st, 2025. So it's been on for almost two, board meeting cycles. Typically, what we do is we allow a property to be, listed and marketed during an entire month, before the board meets. We listed that property at 165,000. We did receive, well, did we receive, this says three, but it looks like there are four offers there.
Yes.
Four offers received. Top offer equates to $180 a square foot. So again, listed at 165. The top offer, is an offer at 190. So, high over asking price. There is a seller concession attached to this offer. Seller concession of $5,700, which would actually be a $183,300 net to BENLIC with a deposit of $2,000. This is an unrestricted sale. So this is a conventional, all of these offers are conventional. Carol, the second offer at 168,000, so 3,000 over ask, also a conventional mortgage. The third offer at 150 and the fourth offer at 111. And I believe the third and fourth offer are cash offers. Is that accurate? Okay, thank you.
Is the concession or concessions, is that for the closing costs being wrapped into it or is that something else?
Generally, that's what's required by the lenders, is that it's used for closing costs.
So it says M&T Bank there, meaning they're gonna get a mortgage from M&T Bank? Is that,
That's right.
so then M&T is the one requiring seller's concession?
Basically what happens with seller concessions is the buyer doesn't have the cash to do the closing costs, such as escrow for taxes, insurance and so forth. So they will, as part of the contract offer, request seller concessions.
And then we got the okay from our council on the
We
dealer.
did not get confirmation. I know, John, we had talked about,
Yeah.
the last offer
We-
got.
We did,
Constitute to get or not.
right. We did talk about that in a prior meeting. And I have looked into it further, and as you might imagine, there's really no guidance out there or prior cases of public entities having to deal with this. Maybe it'll come at a later time, but there aren't a lot of public entities that are regularly involved in the sale of residential real estate, as you can imagine. It's really just land banks. And as your board members pointing out, seller concessions have become a very common practice in the residential real estate industry it is a bit of a gimmick to help buyers finance more of the purchase price and their closing costs. But I've come to the conclusion, it's certainly up to you, but as long as it's disclosed properly, it's in the contract, it's on all of the, closing disclosures, the financial documents at closing, then I'm of the opinion that it's okay for you to proceed and offer them, because it's just part of the transaction cost and you're still getting fair market value or perhaps higher for the property. So that's the kind of the best I can do under the circumstances.
So if the board is comfortable with the seller concession, then the preferred offer would be Ms. Hairston. And then the second recommendation would be Carolyn Pope at 168. and the resolution would contemplate that.
John and Scott, just a quick, one further question on the concessions then. Is
Sure.
BENLIC cutting a check at closing then for those
No.
concessions? So it's really
No.
on paper only?
Correct, correct. And it's towards the buyer's closing costs. And just a little more background, if you're curious, I've been around long enough. Sellers concessions have been around a long time. They were a little bit of a dirty word way back when. And their bar association opinions on how lawyers were to handle them at closings. The end result over the years has been, as long as they're disclosed, no one's hiding them. They're in the contract. They're on what was the HUD-1 in the old days and now the closing disclosures. So the lender is aware of it. Buyer and sellers are aware of it, that they are acceptable.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Any other questions, or is there a pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to.
Jeremy, we have a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you, Nadine. Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question?
183.3 plus 5,700 comes up to 189, not 190. $1,000 missing, not a big deal, obviously, but
Say.
you know, you have to move this back to the board, I guess.
You would have done that before I made the
No,
motion.
don't change the motion, I still support it. It's
Yeah,
just- it's a typo, that's all it is.
Lunch and snacks at our meetings.
Yeah, that's right. That's the. I'm even gonna say that.
The offer is,
Oh, I was just
the offer is
kidding. I don't
190
mean that.
to be.
Yeah.
So, the offer is 190.
Okay, so much. I swear there's a typo in there somewhere that you didn't.
So it should be 189?
No,
It's 190.
It is 190. So the concession is that
And that's
67?
been like would be 184.
180,000, that's
Oh, that, okay. Thank you.
Well, and that's,
But that's not in
then
the,
I'll vote for
and
it.
that's not in the resolution though. The resolution doesn't speak to that.
Okay.
It just has the full sale price.
right, on 190 in the result.
All right, that's fine.
Attention to detail, very good.
No, let me point it out.
Did that? The resolution's still accurate.
Yeah. Anything else on the question, Dan? Motion made and seconded, and no other questions, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
As my math skills get, basic additions.
So that brings us back to our remaining item then, the selection of home buyer education, marketing and sales service for the ARPA Infill initiative.
Okay, just some brief context for the group and this ARP initiative, this 52 homes that BENLIC has been commissioned to build and deliver. We have an agreement, a subrecipient agreement for the American Rescue Plan funding. So that funding has been given to us by the city of Buffalo and the county of Erie. So typically, BENLIC does work with real estate brokers and agents when we sell a property. However, this is a special initiative funded by the county and the city. Our agreement did not necessarily contemplate how the properties would be sold. So over the past couple of months, I'd say our city and county team has been contemplating really what would be the best and most equitable way for these homes to be sold. So with a little bit of that introduction, BENLIC put out an RFP at the end of August 2025 to try to find a full service firm, ideally a not-for-profit firm, who could handle from soup to nuts the sales, the home ownership education, the marketing, the outreach, and the closings of all of these properties. So that RFP was put out on August 26th. We did receive one response from Belmont Housing Resources. Most of you, I think everybody in there is familiar with Belmont. They submitted a complete proposal to provide what we call wraparound home buyer services for all 52 homes through the ARPA Infill initiative. So can we get to the next slide, Matt?
Yep.
And just wanna, and you also have in front of you kind of an overview of the proposal. You also have a copy of the RFP and the complete proposal from Belmont. So there are really 6 sections that Belmont responded to. First of all, how to market the property and do outreach, including Zillow postings, and Belmont offered QR codes, flyers, social media, press events, signage, and outreach. Buyer readiness, which would include what we call Am I Ready classes and a 6-hour homeownership counseling program. The administration of a lottery. So these are going to be non-competitive sales determined by lottery. So Belmont submitted an approach toward that lottery. Sales and closings, how the applications will be processed, income verification, eligibility, contract draft, home showings, walkthrough, grant assistance, and finally reporting. So those 6 sections Belmont responded to. We also had some extras that we asked Belmont to respond to that BENLIC put in the proposal, to potentially list the property on the MLS, to provide some kind of compensation for a potential buyer who may be coming in with a real estate broker, and the cost of extra newspaper advertisements. So Belmont's proposal contemplates all of these things. Staff has interviewed with Belmont. Our county and city ARP team has interviewed with Belmont. The city of Buffalo has brought up some additional questions. And I would like to, if I could maybe turn over to Nadine to just reiterate some of those extra questions. And we do have Sandy and Karen here today to talk about those additional questions and concerns outside the scope of the proposal. So, we can hopefully just all be on board around the table with regard to Belmont's comprehensive proposal.
Before we turn to Nadine, just one second on it, just for the standard insurance provisions, there's a typo. Under number 3, there's talking about city in the RFP itself.
Okay.
Oh, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Here. Buffalo.
Okay, yes, yeah, I am.
I would say.
There's an I instead of all, just for future, if this, I'm assuming this is the standard we have in all of them, just you can check, right?
Did you note that?
Yeah.
Got that? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
So, I think really my questions, which I shared with, at least Zach and then with BENLIC, break down into 2 things, but really the philosophical approach. And I take this from a protective of the city and county as government in particular, in that we really, as the funders of this, I feel that we should be gold standard of marketing and not in any way, relying on our reputation, so that we're in no way open to you had to know something, you had to see a certain Facebook ad, you had to something. And I don't want any of us, I feel that because of the government direct funding, that us being as transparent and public as possible, using all the standard procedures is the most protective of our reputations and how people could speak to how these houses were offered, so that there's no ever hint of impropriety. We all get it all the time, and I think that's really my number 1 concern on that. The second set of questions I have are really related to knowing that these will often be first-time home buyers and just protecting the first-time home buyer. So with those 2 philosophical points, I'll take the easier one, which is the realtor fees. So as we all know nowadays, because of the change in the way realtors are compensated, most people are signing exclusivity documents with a buyer's agent. And so if you've signed that exclusivity agreement, you have basically agreed to pay your buyer's agent a certain compensation, regardless of whether or not the seller is offering that to you. So in my estimation of that, by limiting that compensation to $1,500, we are burdening first-time homebuyers or potential first-time homebuyers with what could be up to about $5,500 of cost. In this case, would be coming from, fees to BENLIC and money we could recycle into the program, but it would also be coming from someone buying these homes. So I think that is really outside of an issue with you guys, but I would take to the board that we really consider that it was a 3% fee. We could say in the listing that we limit that fee to 2% of purchase price. And anybody who's working with an agent, their agent would explain that to them. They would understand the implications of that. But I just think that 1,500 is less than 1% of the purchase price and just leaves a large gap for the buyer then to have to compensate their realtor.
In the exclusivity agreement, the way I limited knowledge is that agreement could be either a percentage of the fee or a flat fee or
Yes.
some
Yeah,
flexibility.
so just for some clarity, Belmont's proposal contemplated if somebody does come, so somebody could come to Belmont without any kind of a broker. If they come to Belmont with a broker, Belmont is proposing a $1,500 referral fee. And what Nadine is saying is that $1,500 doesn't quite reach up to that 2%. So, and I think she's feeling that, or the city
What are the-
is feeling.
What is the?
What is the standard percentage that?
Three, I've seen realtors go between 3.5,
Right.
but they'll negotiate
Would you
sometimes.
be comfortable saying that if an applicant came in, and they had a realtor that we would pay half of whatever it is they was in their agreement?
I was suggesting 2%, because the realtors will often work with someone because my concern is realtors may be discouraged from showing their client a home if the compensation is too low. And I understand that's between the realtor and the first time home buyer, but again, taking this from the, we want to be gold standard, at least if we disclose 2%, because we don't know what a realtor's offer. So what we would be saying is, well, if you signed at 3.5, you get 1.75. And if you signed at 3, you get 1.5. And I just feel like that's, you know what I mean? I say,
So percentage protects the person. The person who, for whatever reason, signed a higher percentage exclusivity clause, because the flat, and I'm sure, tell me if I'm wrong, because you're where the flat fee might be okay for the person who hit 2%,
Mhm.
but for the person who signed a 3.5%, that's a much bigger gap.
right.
So if we maintain a percentage, then we're hitting no matter what they come.
And it's just clean and we can anticipate that and we know exactly what that fee is and we can just lock that out. And I personally believe that with a target of first time home buyers, and not a target, I realize people may not be first time home buyers, but I just think that this is really a recycling of cash issue to the BENLIC board and to the county and city ARPA programs. And I just think and I've discussed it with some of my city colleagues, including the deputy mayor, that this just feels like an appropriate middle ground for the new world of real estate.
If I may, turn to Belmont, just in your experiences, what have you been seeing?
I mean, you're definitely right. They are getting, more pressure to sign the agreement. And they're being told, don't worry about it. The seller's gonna end up paying it. And in this case, we wouldn't necessarily be doing that. So they would be on the hook. We do see though, a lot of folks are opting not to even work with realtors because of being pressured to sign that agreement and the idea that they're gonna be on the hook for that money. So we are seeing more clients who are just trying to shop on their own. And you, as you can even see, if you're a person like me who's always on Zillow and whatnot, realtors are going back to doing a lot of open houses because of the fact that's how they're getting the buyers now into the units. And they can just represent, the seller. But we put it in there because we do know we don't wanna discourage a referral from an owner or from a realtor who wants to sell them something different where they're gonna make more money. So, I mean, your point is, valid. Go ahead.
So the flip side of this, and I don't quite understand how the process works. So let's say we agree to put in, with selling these homes that we will pay up to 3% of the buyer's real estate. Whatever. So do the realtors who are potentially bringing us potential bidders know that, so that there's no I don't, so they're looking for
Yeah,
people.
all of that is disclosed
So
on the, in the listings where the realtors can see all that stuff.
So doesn't that, feels like then there's an incentive for that realtor to charge their client, not us, their client, the 3%, whereas maybe otherwise they would have charged them 2%.
They've already signed the
Oh.
exclusivity agreement before they show them houses. A buyer's agent won't show them
I see.
house till they have signed in that agreement. So if you choose to work with a realtor, you are now being asked to sign those agreements before they show you the first house.
And that exclusivity agreement is not contingent upon the houses that they are being shown.
It's any,
It's any house.
even if you buy a for sale by owner.
Yeah. They're still expecting, so the fact that we put 3% at the front end doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna be driving up our own costs. Because those agreements will have already been arranged
Right.
between the buyer and their agent.
Yeah, really,
Well,
it's,
They'd be paying it, but in this example, you're saying, yes, we would pay it out of, BENLIC would pay it out of their profit, or it's gonna be added to the sale price.
yeah, so it's the question is, if you come with the realtor, somebody's paying them. And are we asking the buyer to pay it, or are we taking that cost? And that's
Yeah.
really the decision here is, if they've signed an exclusivity agreement, they're getting paid. So I am just suggesting that in a world where we're trying to encourage first-time home buyers, that it is more appropriate for us to take that on. Now, we can say we're only paying 2%, and some realtors may say, okay, I'll drop to 2.5, or I'll do it at 2, don't worry about it. They can negotiate with their clients, or they can say.
Post sale, post, yeah.
Or they could say, I said 3, you owe me this difference. But I think it's a compromise of saying 2 or 2.5.
But to Jeremy's point, we're not affecting the marketplace, I think is what you're asking.
We're not
So
affecting the
not-
marketplace, we're affecting our own
the
pocket.
Small little thing, we're not affecting the marketplace.
So what you're suggesting is to offer 2%. If someone brings in,
I feel that's a reasonable compromise. I mean, I would go full 3. I mean, I just would. I don't know that when I'm looking at who I'm protecting, I would be protecting the home buyers more than us. But I'm putting forth a compromise.
So that's $5,000, right? Is that right?
2%, yeah.
So it's 5,000.
It's a little bit less for the 2 bedrooms. The 2 bedrooms will sell for about 199.5, and then the 3 bedrooms will sell for approximately
So
240.
it's roughly $3,000 more per transaction, ish, right? That's
This one,
Yeah.
yes.
For that.
Well, it's 3,000 less to us.
to us.
Less, not more.
Yeah, not more, less to us. Right. 3,000 less.
And if I may, since we have John here too, John, what have you been seeing in the marketplace?
So I don't do a lot of residential real estate, but I'm agreeing with everything that I'm hearing in terms of in the Syracuse community, residential commissions are in the 6 to 7% range, negotiable. What I was going to add to the conversation, and I know I'm not a board member, these aren't really legal matters, but I agree with what has been said, and I think under normal circumstances, by agreeing to pay the buyer's commission, you're going to encourage realtors to bring more buyers, right? Because they're looking at other listings who are agreeing to pay them and taking the burden off their client to have to pay them. But I want to add, these are not normal circumstances. You're selling these by lottery, I believe. So there's much less that a realtor is going to do or influence the process, if you will. A good realtor can do a lot of work to make it more likely that their client is the successful buyer with some creativity. That's not going to happen here, I hope, and I don't think. So that lends perhaps the argument for why it's only 2% or even less. So I just offer that for food for thought.
Yeah. So there, yes, I agree on they don't have to work so hard on the offer. There's not going to be any negotiations back and forth. But where somebody has signed that exclusivity agreement is really the framework the city has put forth on that. So knowing that we're not, I just put that out for discussion first. So then going back to the first point of the conversation, which is this transparency goal, I think we should have, and very open transactions. So if we have 47 houses that are coming forth in how many, 6 neighborhoods?
47
Over.
and then the 5 G2.
Yes, I'm sorry, City of Buffalo, not.
Yeah.
I don't think about you guys. I say it.
Well, it takes us.
Yeah.
It's not you guys.
City hat for the second. But they're coming over 2 years. And the idea of having a neighborhood lottery that you need to know 18 months before a home is delivered that you can get into that lottery is very problematic for me.
So, you know what,
Correct.
Nikki, let me give a little more context too, just so everybody kind of understands the proposal. So Belmont proposed not to put each individual property into the MLS. They proposed an umbrella where they would have maybe all of the houses in one neighborhood under one listing on Zillow. And therefore, so we kind of were working this all out, testing it in the office. So if you were to search, for example, on Zillow for a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom house, what would pop up would be all of the houses that are, for example, being built in Black Rock, Riverside. You know, the listing would look like that. So there are going to be 13 homes in Black Rock, Riverside. There's going to be 8 of them that are done in October. There's going to be another 5 of them that are modular that are going to be done sometime in the middle of next year. So that's right. It's an extended process that this one neighborhood of homes is going to be complete. So instead of each individual house or address, it's an umbrella. And it seems now Nadine / the city has a concern that there should be a listing for each individual address in the system, which would incur some more costs. So we want to hear from Belmont in that discussion.
And let me just, a couple reasons. One, as I think as city homeowners in particular, and I know a couple of you are as well, different blocks are very different, right? And you might be willing to, you may want this house and not be willing to buy the exact same house 2 blocks over. So I think by listing by blocks, we're not necessarily treating all the houses the same, right? Like different the same neighborhood 2 blocks over can be an entirely different feel, a different neighborhood, maybe something not. The extended delivery time, keeping one wait list for a neighborhood that would deliver over 18 months, I think really brings up some concerns about you had to know a year and a half ago that these were going to be available and get on the list. Well, I wasn't employed a year and a half ago. I couldn't get on the list a year and a half. I wasn't ready to own.
And Sam, Karen, is it correct that you proposed to do one lottery per neighborhood,
Yeah.
not per house?
Yes, and partially that's coming from a cost advantage. If you're thinking about paying an ML fee to a real estate agent to list each house, you're gonna, like I said in the email, you're now talking between the broker's fee that we're paying and the ML fee, you're gonna be hitting up about $500,000 to sell all, just for 4% on 52 houses. If you pay 2% out on both ends. So that's why I was thinking to bulk them together, and that's actually when we sold multiple houses at once, it was over a long period of time, and people did wait. And what we do is you just have the right of first refusal. So we realize not everybody's gonna want, you know, if they're number one, they get first pick out of the 6 houses. And if it's the one they wanna wait for, they can do that. The second person, you get the next pick, you get the next pick. So, and then we wouldn't leave it there. We would continue to add to the wait list over the time. It's just that initial,
So you don't have to wait 2 months in advance.
But yes,
So
you-
don't wait.
Because the
But they're
lottery
gonna
would
be-
establish your place on the wait list.
Yeah.
So then you would automatically be on the bottom of the wait list if you apply after the original lottery.
Mhm.
So if you don't know about a house until after the first one is sold, you're gonna be position number 42 no matter what.
Well, here's the difference here, and this is what I was thinking in my mind, but this is all interesting. So we're gonna have houses come up periodically over the next year, right? As they're working their way through construction. Now we can do the MLS listing. Here's the, the lot parcels per neighborhood, that's fine. But my thought was, we could do the lottery on a quarterly basis. So this fall, between now and the end of 26, 25, we will have 13 homes available on the Belmont websites. I mean, for Belmont, they would have a list of all 50
52.
of all the homes in Buffalo on the website. So you can go and see the list and where they are in the process, maybe. But then on a quarterly basis, we do a lottery that says these are the houses for sale this quarter, and they'll be available. And then all neighbors, and then people know that 3 months, that's it. And we do another lottery for the next quarter. So you don't have to know 18 months ahead. You just go to okay, this quarter, these houses are going to come available.
I would have hesitancy of having to know that I have to go look at Belmont's webpage to know that information. So I'm not saying,
You can say, go to this website.
but so I think there's my proposal, or there's two extremes here, right? Which is every house should be listed individually as it comes available, so that the people who are buying up, who are putting in an offer, know exactly which house they're proposing for and when it would be available to them. Another extreme would be there's just 6 lotteries for the neighborhood, and as houses come, if you've got on the wait list, that lottery was established and we go down the list one at a time. And if people join the wait list late, they get at the bottom of the wait list, basically. That lottery would not necessarily reshuffle every time somebody new applied. So those are I think the two ends of this. I think they're very significantly different approaches. And I think you're saying that if we advertise what date they're going to be available or rerun that lottery quarterly, that would be like a middle ground.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
I'm not understanding, so setting the listing aside for a minute, just taking that out of the conversation for a second. What would stop us from doing a lottery for each individual house? The lottery's not expensive, right? It's like a computer program. You plug a bunch of stuff in and answer pops up.
We can do that, but it's labor intensive to work that many lists down, because you're gonna have to, let's say you get 100 people, that's 100 people. We have to see if they're income eligible. And let's say you got 3 houses in that neighborhood and you have 300 people now. We're making sure that they're income eligible, they're bankable, they're credited worthy. It's just we were coming from a perspective of trying to keep the costs of administration as low as possible.
So you're doing that work on the front end. I put myself on the lottery. You don't just let me in the lottery and then do all the work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Once I approach you, you say, all right, let's do all of it.
Yes.
So then,
Well, just for a better lottery list, because if not, we'd have people who wouldn't qualify.
Yeah.
Who'd either be over income, under income, not credit ready. They would be applying, we'd still be going through them as we're trying to cycle through. And our idea is by neighborhood, and I would be happy, like maybe doing a quarterly one or however often we think the houses are coming up. But if I live in Black Rock, Riverside, and I want to stay there, and there's 4 houses, I'm applying to all 4. So if we have, every house has 100 people who are applying, instead of a 100-person wait list for, that neighborhood, now we have 400 person wait lists.
Why wouldn't you though, if you had the lottery coming in, on each lottery, say for example, you do a preliminary screening, not like a deep dive, but just, are they claiming they meet the parameters? Yes. Then you conduct the lottery, you have the numbers to go through. Wouldn't you then just take the number 1, do more of a deep dive at that point, as opposed to doing it, all at once?
Yeah, that sounds more efficient.
Is it right, Sandy, that your Am I Ready, the thing that's in your proposal, that's where you do a soft credit pull?
Yeah.
And it's almost like a pre-screen, right?
Yeah,
Where it's gonna give you some idea as to whether that person can follow through and be qualifiable.
Yeah, and we're gonna do everything online, so you're right, they're gonna fill out what they think their income is, and we can do a quick look at their credit, and they're gonna be asked to get a pre-approval to be in the lottery, to get or at least like a pre-qualification. It's just that it's been our experience that you just are spinning your wheels a lot if you and because we're time sensitive here with the houses that are on the market, whatever we can do to expedite the sales quickly, that's kind of the perspective that we're kind of coming from.
And I have one question on the proposal that's
And we can,
kind of related to it, because you highlight within the proposal, various projects that are more akin to what we're proposing here. But you didn't highlight the ACT consortium one, which has Amherst, Cheektowaga, and Tonawanda, even though that one has 72 properties and the rest are lower. So I was curious, was there a reason why that one wasn't?
the only reason I didn't highlight those is because they were never done in mass quantities like the Tonawanda houses were. With the infill with Amherst and Cheektowaga, it was sporadic, we did have like 6 houses, I think it was in Cheektowaga, so those sold all at once with one lot. We had in Tonawanda, I think we were working on Sheridan Parkside for at least 3 years, wasn't it 43 or 4? And we were working off the original lottery list because it was mostly neighborhood people who wanted to stay in the neighborhood. But we would then add to it if we ran out of people that were on the lottery list that could buy it. So
More homes, but not as many upfront, whereas the other ones said.
yeah, it was like a major project all at once.
Appreciate that.
Quick question. With long-term of what your lottery that you're looking at, you have the potential of people basically incoming themselves out of qualification. How are you gonna ensure that doesn't happen?
Well, with all our programs, we say that your approval is only good for 3 months. We have to recertify your income. So because any government funded program and we operate a home program for down payment and closing costs. So we have to recertify their income and we tell them upfront that we're gonna have to redo the income if this goes on.
So realistically, you've got to do it on a quarterly basis anyway.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's not a bad.
Well,
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
the quarterly discussion,
mhm.
when we did the tour of the homes, there was already some issues with things being taken. One of the builders specifically mentioned that they should not sit vacant. We're doing it quarterly.
It's a huge issue.
There's potential that something's coming on after we're doing this lottery 2 days later and is now sitting for 4 months. We don't want to do.
Yeah,
Well, we would kind of know when they're coming. I mean, we have an idea of when.
But if we're only doing it quarterly,
Well,
then we're doing stuff already.
yeah, we were selling
I
before
like,
they were done.
I'm fine
Yeah.
with us with the umbrella neighborhood approach, but I would rather do it not 18 months apart. That's ridiculous.
So-
I would rather do it these 8 already now, and then we're gonna do another lottery next year with these 8 in that same neighborhood.
So that's a perhaps, because we know there's 8 going to be delivered in Black Rock Riverside.
Right,
Which is now in the
They
state.
built our first, right,
Yeah.
and then there's gonna be 5
What are the delivery dates for the Black Rock Riverside?
end of October.
Until when? Because they're not all done in October. The first week of November, second week of November, we got about a 2-week window. Okay, so if we put them all online for those 8 together, I think this is what you're saying, which are delivery date lotteries
Yeah.
rather than
Yes.
by neighborhood, by delivery date,
Yes.
because the delivery dates will be grouped together.
yeah,
And that way we extinguish the list all at once.
And 18 months is way too long.
And it's,
Right.
because it's about a year before the
Especially
modular, or
after we
8 months before the modulars are done, are put
Yeah.
out.
conceivably this fall, we could do a lottery for the 8 in Riverside and the 5 in Cheektowaga.
Correct.
Then after January or in January, we could do for whatever's gonna be ready,
In January.
January, even February, or whatever that is.
And
So-
it's a keyword list, but it's not.
Yeah.
8 months.
Yeah.
If they want it.
Yeah.
Start.
We just reach out to the same one and say, if you wanna go on.
Commissioner,
I'd like to understand the lottery a little better. So let's say I'm a 25-year-old clerk at City Hall, making a income that would make me eligible. So now I see this house online. What do I do to get into the lottery? What's step
The
one?
QR code's gonna take you right to our website where we envisioned, having all the information like you said. And then would have a button that you would, if you're interested to apply to be on the lottery, click this button. So we're trying to do everything electronically. We would run the lottery right from their applications.
So I click the button.
Yeah.
And now what? There's a bunch of questions and I answer the questions. It says, what's my income?
Mhm. Yeah.
What is,
Or
do I
would
have,
you
what's
come
my,
in, meet with you and go through all that, or are they putting it in on the web?
I would do it all online because to your point, we want it to be, we don't want it left up to anybody to say, I met with that person. They gave me the paperwork. They
No,
didn't
that's
submit
smart.
my information. So that's why we're saying, let's do everything electronically. There's no way to apply on paper. You have to go to the website. And we even did that with Section 8. And I was, in a way, I was hesitant about it because I was concerned that a lot of people aren't computer savvy. But it also wasn't just for efficiency reasons, but it was exactly to speak to, we don't want anybody saying, I brought it in, and we're like, we didn't accept it online yet, or, in-person application, so we know that's not the case.
so it asks
So-
for my income, my
Mhm.
credit score?
We'll pull the credit for free.
Okay, so, all right, so I,
Security number,
okay,
like a pre-qual.
so I enter this in.
I wanna make you and the board also feel comfortable also, if, let's say Belmont is selected. What you would be doing is approving the concept of a lottery, but we will review that process, the actual process again with the board. So we haven't final, I mean, we also.
Of course, open us up.
So
This
if
isn't ready. so-
If I'm this 25-year-old clerk, to be 25 again, my God. I would, enter this info. I hit enter. On the back end, you run my credit score, you see if I fit into the parameters, and if I do, I'm in the lottery, done, and then everything else happens if I'm selected from the lottery.
I thought I read that you needed to submit a pre-qualification letter from a bank to be entered into the lottery.
Yes, we were recommending that. Again, that's open for discussion. I just feel like it would be more expediting, especially
For
as
Adams
time,
Street, you need an actual
Yeah.
pre-approval.
But we're also gonna hold,
It keeps
You know,
people
Right,
serious.
yeah, serious people instead of people who are bored.
Yeah.
And you call it
I mean,
super easy to get.
they're-
and
Yeah.
the thing with the realtors, we don't want them referring people over that aren't
That are gonna be at 50%
Yeah.
AMI and not be able to reach this.
exactly.
So I think that that's potentially,
Mhm.
I heard at least one of my colleagues from the city corner understanding the proposal of by neighborhood by delivery date.
Yeah.
And then there was only one other item that I thought I was,
I think what you had, the question was that there's a certain amount allocated for newspaper and
Oh.
different advertisers.
I have a-
That it needs to be more.
well, one other question I have is this Am I Ready class, and the timing of that. So again, just in the, I don't want anyone to say I had to know something to apply, is that any of these classes would be required prior to purchasing rather than prior to applying because of the quick delivery date of this first round. Because we have,
Applies and hasn't been through that class, it's only what, an 8-hour class or something?
It's the Am I Ready is under 2 hours.
So, yeah.
And the sixth one, they can take the class anytime.
right, but I don't want them to have to take Am I Ready, which is only offered through Belmont
Mhm.
before applying, just
Right.
because then it is, you had to know something, you had to be on the list, you had to this, you had to that. Just in the, on fair, transparent.
Yeah, no,
And I think, just to kind of let you know, I don't think we were saying that Am I Ready would be required for everyone to take. I think we were saying we would offer this class and include information about the properties, so people could take it and learn more about the properties. And also, we call it Am I Ready, because we go through kind of some of the realities of purchasing, like your income, credit, and things like that.
I do
So
think
that was, I don't think it was mandatory for every person, but maybe it came across that way,
I
which
think
is not what I meant.
it was in the proposal as we would recommend this prior to applying. So I just want to be careful on that. And then the last one, and this is just coming from my personal perspective, that is, if we do newspaper advertisements, it can't just be the Challenger. There are a number of minority newspapers, Hispanic language newspapers that we would have to represent into, especially in Black Rock Riverside. There's a local Black Rock, the Riverside Rocket, is that it? River Rock Times, right? So just being a little more inclusive in any of these, if we're going to choose to do advertisements, that we really target the neighborhood, target the various languages. You know, I feel like my minority Hispanic people just, we don't get enough attention sometimes. I need us to be in there.
I had on pricing. Is that if we do go ahead with newspaper ads, that seems light for the $2,500 where I'm doing legal notices. Yes, a little bit different, but you're looking at for multiple insertions, 10 to 15,000 with the new.
Yeah, and I, in the proposal, it was more of, this isn't included in our price of services. If you guys want this, this is gonna be additional cost of whatever you decide.
So it might be helpful,
Yeah.
Cindy, maybe, have you?
I believe so. I don't think there's.
So everybody, has this, the summary, if you go to page 2, that actually has Belmont's costs broken out. And it also might help everybody, to review what we talked about. So there, everybody have that, this page 2 of the summary, and then I think, oh, there it is up there too, on the screen.
Yeah.
So we've got a core proposal, of 110,000. We have MLS listings, but that would just be the 6 flat fee neighborhood posts, okay, so it is in there. We have, optional realtor referral fees, so that's guessing that 50% of people would come in with a buyer, so we have a cost of 39,000 there. And then we have an optional for newspaper ads. So then the second there, you can see your total cost scenarios, base only 110, base plus the listings as written by neighborhood. And then with referrals and add-ons. So base plus all add-ons, we have a proposal of 163.5, and that is also on the page 9 to 10, your package on the resolve.
I'm sorry, all add-ons, is that single MLS listings or is that?
So we did
Still per-
guided about these.
Yeah.
MLS listings.
So all MLS listings would drive that cost up some amount.
That's at 6 MLS listings.
Yeah.
1,500 per listing.
Yeah, if we got a real estate company who agreed to do that, they don't have to list themselves unless they want to, but,
Every listing is $1,500.
no, it would normally be more like 3%. So what we're proposing is to contact a real estate agent and say, or a broker, and all we're asking you to do is to post 6 development listings on the MLS system. We're gonna develop our own listing for Zillow and Trulia that's free. And give it to you to put on MLS, and would you do it for, 6, whatever it was, 6 times 1,500? So that we could get somebody to say no. No one will do it, but there is a company that does it for 2%. And their name is, what is it? Yeah, well, what used to be America's First, and now it's J, and then.
2% of the purchase price.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's business.
So this,
Yeah.
It's just
Just-
fine.
so this $1,500 fee hasn't been vetted with any
No,
brokers.
no, it's just what I'm hoping, if that's a way to go, if that's a way you feel that it's necessary.
Sale price just to list it.
Well, because they would charge 3% to sell it, so they're
Mhm.
like, you need me to get on MLS.
Mhm.
Real estate agent's fee is paying their broker.
Oh,
Who's listening?
Okay.
But we're arguing, do we really need to do that if, as long as we're offering to pay brokers, buyers fees? If we're publicizing that to realtors, a lot of people, the only people who are on MLS, clients who are buying houses, are the ones who have signed a broker's agreement with a seller, with a real estate agent. So, it's not hitting that really many more people than they're already on Zillow shopping themselves.
But it is the most transparent and it is the industry standard. MLS is the industry standard. Zillow and Trulia are not, are just the ad.
After it
That's
numbers.
an extra house or two.
Because while it might be 2% to, I'm going to sell your house for you, to just throw a listing on, maybe, I don't know, maybe we could talk to some of these folks, explain the situation, see if the same way M&T helps out with, broadening their loans for situations like this, maybe real estate agents would also be willing to help for the good pods and do some off.
Yeah, that's what we're going.
Oh, go ahead.
But I did have a couple things when we were talking about advertising. I think we should communicate with real estate agents, you know, like everyone's busy, everyone's doing a million things. You know, they see this unusual situation, they might not be as eager to show it to their clients or talk to their clients about it. Maybe there's what, a dozen real estate agencies that operate in Buffalo, have a communication out to them. And it can come right from BENLIC.
So like I did do a presentation to the BNR Government Affairs
Okay.
Committee last week.
And they're all there and they're all sharing.
There were 30 people there, but that's their government affairs.
Does a real good job of getting the information out.
So that was one thing, just
I
to
can keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like to the head of each office or something. I'm sure we have the
They
information.
usually have meetings where and I think in the proposal, we might have said that we would try to go to the local brokers and when they're having a staff meeting, present at the staff meeting. I'm actually presenting at BNR in a couple weeks on grants in the area. So I was gonna plug these as well. So if we decide we're willing to pay that the next couple weeks, if you decide that's something I could publicize. But and then I thought we could have like a realtor event to see the first open houses. That's something that real estate agents do with each other is like, okay, I got a new listing. I'm gonna bring in all the realtors that might be working with buyers for this listing. And we could have like, you know, refreshments and it just opens. Yeah.
Yeah, for agent.
The other comment I was gonna make is honestly, before we go to newspapers, I would say social media, like anyone, we're all probably maybe dinosaurs in here, not to say, you know. But the kids, the younger people, anyone, you know, up to mid-40s is all over social media.
Yeah.
And if I make this,
Mr. Chairman, Mayor. This is a question, I think, for the Belmont folks and other members of the board, folks in this room. When you're saying listings, 6 listings on the MLS does not prohibit, I think you touched on this, listing individual home listings on Redfin, Zillow, Trulia, all those, right?
Yeah.
And I guess this is my question, you know, I have used the example with the team here that, you know, I bought a home a year ago in the city of, a little over a year ago now, in the city of Buffalo, and I do, in, you know, my day-to-day job, pay attention to the real estate world. It just seems that, from my view and people I've talked to, that the MLS, that the world has changed, and that the MLS is more of an inside baseball tool for realtors. And the majority of people find homes on Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, what have you. And I'm wondering if, especially if it's gonna cost 2% per listing on the MLS, and that's a huge, I didn't realize it was that expensive. Would someone in this room said it, would the 6 postings per neighborhood or whatever as a sort of development, like we've all seen, hey, you know, Shady Oaks is being built in, whatever, pick a suburb. Would that satisfy the MLS for the realtors to whom the MLS speaks to anyway? People that are, the MLS is for realtors, so does it really, no customer is gonna see the MLS. So are we worried about a potential buyer going, oh, they only put 6 neighborhood listings on the MLS? When John and Jane buyer who's gonna be interested is gonna be looking at.
Recording stopped.
Did we time out?
That's the AI,
So I guess that's my question is if we do the sort of more cost-effective batch listing on the MLS, does this address, if we do that, but then we still are having individual home postings on these other outlets, would that be okay?
Can I address 2 pieces? And I did take Corporation Counsel outside to ask her a legal question from the city's perspective. So I do want to say that MLS is also what backs up many and most of those Zillows, as well as anyone who's already hired a realtor, they are getting those MLS listings. So to say MLS is just for realtors is anyone working with a realtor, and at most of the stuff you do see in Zillow is actually from MLS. That's really what's pushing up to Zillow.
Square in a rectangle. like the MLS populates the websites, true, but you can also post, like I'm selling a house.
But I will say, when I go on Zillow, if
Yeah.
I'm being nosy, I immediately take off for sale by owner, because I don't want to deal with those people, and I think that's how this would be listed, so I'm just saying this. The one thing I'm going to say, and it is only a potential offer, is that the city is a broker who can list on the MLS. If you cannot find someone who will do this for a set fee, we can approach doing this, but the city would do it by neighborhood, by grouping, perhaps. My caveat is that, my staff would want to attend open houses, because we would want to make sure fair housing laws are being upheld, since it is our broker license on the line there. And then we would have to talk about how open houses or any other showings were handled if they were individual showings.
I know it's not set in stone, but then forgive me because my neck's hurting, so it's tough to. Would the city also do that for the Cheektowaga homes or city
We could
exclusive?
not do it, and we would not be able to do that for Cheektowaga, so that's why this is,
I don't, well, sorry, not to cut you off.
what,
I mean, the Cheektowaga homes, I talked to the Cheektowaga Community Development Office today, they're getting phone calls daily about those 5 homes. So I don't necessarily know that we're gonna need an MLS listing for those.
and here's the thing, I don't think there won't be interest in these, I just don't want anyone to suggest you had to know something special to find these.
I don't,
And that's my concern, so I went on MLS and I didn't know it.
Do that, that would be.
So there would be some things to figure out in that on staffing and how individual showings would go, but we have lock boxes, which would be able to then have realtors take for private showings without us. It can accommodate some of that. That would make this potentially easier.
Would you be able to hold my real estate license?
I don't know enough about that. Our broker is Yvonne Bailey. She holds the city's broker's license, our director of real estate.
If I may, because the time is short for a lot of reasons. A few questions. How many homes are gonna be up, shall we say, in the first group?
Well, eight in the city and then 5 in Cheektowaga.
5. So we know that there's gonna be 13 that we would have to definitely.
25.
Yeah.
In the rest of this year, calendar.
Yep,
years.
not including Adams Street.
What I'm trying to see is what, shall we say, chunk, assuming that we go with Belmont, which it seems like we're inclined to, what chunk of the base proposal plus add-ons do we need to agree to now? And then we can explore the things like the MLS, how much is it gonna actually cost for newspaper publishing, that sort of thing.
Was Belmont the only respondent to the RFP?
Yes.
Is there a possibility of accepting the core proposal and then the optionals are the optionals are all fee based? They're not a lump sum.
The
base on-
John Sid, I believe, wrote this resolve. Oh, no. Ben,
No, we reviewed it briefly.
okay, perhaps we should review the resolve just to.
Is the resolve, the first part of the resolution has the base service amount. Not to exceed 110,500. So,
And it's actually just 110, I'm
okay,
sorry.
I know, I just didn't know if we were just adding 4.
No, it's 110, it should be 110.
Okay, so the next one is optional add-on services. Not to exceed blank, and that was also those optional add-ons you have lumped, and I say you, the staff lumped together. The MLS, realtor referral fees, newspaper advertising, etc. Is it possible on that we agree to put forward the first paragraph? We can hold on the second unless we want to pin down the realtor referral fees today, which we may have some consensus on that. The lottery, I don't know if we need to get into anything further other than approving the lottery today, so that'd be the third paragraph. And then the fourth paragraph would be approving a contract with Belmont.
May I offer a change in your proposal for the resolve?
Yeah.
Which is that we agree on if we do have agreement on the fee, we agree on a fee, and we set a number in here just because we do have some urgency to the houses that are coming for delivery in Cheektowaga and in Black Rock Riverside of maybe $10,000, right? So the realtor fees will not close before our next board meeting, so we could put that aside and then just give BENLIC permission to negotiate up to $10,000 of services within this bucket, assuming you'd come in less than that.
Would we need legal approval for that? Yeah.
Additional, yeah.
Professional, okay.
If that makes sense, so that way we can start doing that and then we can just maybe in 30 days come back with a little more, and it'll be our test run, right? We can see how this works. If we need to do the broker, you know, if you find a broker who will list or not, if you feel like we need a newspaper article, but it gives you the opportunity to buy a newspaper ad in the Black Rock, the River Rock. But you know what I mean? And I really think we should though for this.
Is there an objection by Belmont, given that, maybe you cannot speak on behalf of the entire organization right now, that you have to take it back? Or other approvals, but is there an objection to proceeding that way?
No, and like I said, the optional things were more like, if you guys wanna do this, it's gonna cost you more money, and it's gonna come out of your pocket, you know? And we can discuss that and work together on ads and you know, whatever, additional you want. And we're talking to real estate agents to see, we're more than happy to be part of the conversation to try to secure somebody who wants to list for a small amount of money.
It's hard to go through and
It's just not gonna be paid out of our pocket.
Yeah. If we say 10,000 as that bucket,
But
it
that's
does
really to you
include the
guys.
realtor referral fees as of this moment. For us to, you know, we can smooth that out. But basically then we'd have a 10K in paragraph 2. And we can work on the details on the MLS listing, unless somebody wants to bring forward on the referral fees, and we can also work on the newspaper ads.
Do we wanna just nail, I don't know if you guys are willing.
I mean, my only concern about you convinced me about the.
Would you guys prefer, like, you know, maybe you want.
No, I'd like you to watch the other sausages made.
So my only concern about the referral fee, if we say we're gonna have $5,000 per house, because we're agreeing to pay the 2%, that drives, if my math is right, that's $3,500 per home. Spread over 52 homes, that's a lot of money. Willing to do that, but then I'm worried about some of these other costs that we're also talking about.
I'm only suggesting the 10,000 to get us through the next 30 days. knowing that we
10,000
have to-
blanket for
Yeah,
the whole
for-
contract.
You know, just for probably, for potential fees between now and the time the board is back together, because we won't have to pay any realtor fees by that, but we
Okay.
do need to decide now if we are gonna pay realtor fees so that they can be advertised. So actually, I think we should vote on that. The only other thing I wanna be clear about is that because we're doing these in batches, there would be a second set of marketing materials required when the modulars come home. So you may want to think about that, and there might be a change order at some point for a de minimis amount for a second set of marketing fees. Since it won't be 6, it'll be 12 or 4, you know, a small change in the number of pictures and materials being taken, because the modulars have a very different layout and will need new photographs and those sorts of documents.
And the other, decision is, are we only going to pay the real estate, referral fee if they have a signed agreement with the purchaser? Like, not if they just said, hey, I referred somebody over to you, are you gonna pay me, you know, the money? They have to have the buyer's, broker agreement.
So can we,
Thing on the referral fees, 2% is fine, but one of the things you need to watch, is that going to be strictly the cost of the house, or does it include the cost of any seller concessions, which are gonna be probably fairly common on the sales of these homes? Most of the MLS says does not include any seller concessions, strictly the net price of the house.
So-
250.
so
But aren't these fixed price? Is this a fixed price? I don't think there's any.
but if somebody could offer to, yeah, we're not gonna be able to do concessions probably on these, because it's all.
Yeah, you-
Yeah, they're set. So why don't we say on the price of the house, and what, I guess, I mean, I've already talked more than I absolutely need to. So is there a number people are comfortable with?
2% on the total cost of the house.
as opposed to the 1,500, so.
If they have a realtor with an exclusivity.
Yeah.
Correct. If they have a realtor with an exclusivity, they've already signed a contract, they've already been shopping.
No, what if they have a realtor, sorry.
Sense of what that dollar amount could be.
Yeah.
It would say, what, $4,000 or $5,000, I wrote it down.
Yeah, 3,500 times 52 homes.
Zach, you had,
And 5,000, depending on whether.
It's a very likely rare eventuality, they have a realtor that doesn't have an exclusivity agreement, would they then get the $1,500 referral?
I assume the realtor would have them sign that exclusivity agreement. So they don't.
Someone's gonna show up.
Or they don't show up with it.
Yeah, they wouldn't get any.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
don't they say,
If you have a cousin who's a realtor and like points it out to you, you wouldn't, the cousin would get none.
Right, but if the cousin gets you to sign the agreement, then they walk in and they make their $5,000.
would be a more fair way to do it, I think, if we had something in writing that they proved to us that they were working with the buyer rather than them just. Yeah.
So they have to, that's part of the standard information you get during the purchase of the offer.
So some way to weed out people who are like, oh, before you put in that bid, sign this.
Yeah.
So that I-
so Jeff, if I may, to try to put a cap on it, so was 2% something that seemed reasonable by the board, without taking the vote yet, but it's 2%.
Yes.
Yeah. It is, except we've got these other costs that
They're
are
still there.
that I'm just worried that we're making a decision on one bucket and leaving another bucket to be decided. I mean, what if the MLS listing turns out to be more important to this whole project?
I-
And
oh.
then,
Well, but it's getting us through this first 30
Yeah,
days, but yes, first 13.
okay.
With the understanding that we're gonna have to amend it in some way, shape or form, and if it does come back that, hey, this is too much, that, maybe the buckets start overlapping a little bit. Well, we have to
And we
cut it out, yeah.
And we can see what's working, what's not working.
absolutely. So this first 13 is kind of our practice one.
Yes.
Okay, Jocelyn, did you have anything from this after? There was a lot of conversation going on. Was there a concern about what we are talking about, or?
Yeah, we just want to make sure we're just getting clear.
Okay, that's why I didn't know if there was like an issue that we need.
No, I mean, and I guess in my mind, I'm just thinking, we can also do this, we can approve as little as possible and then be
Yeah.
more firm.
Yeah.
October, I believe our next meeting's October 18th, so we won't be quite there yet. We
But
can,
hopefully the sign will be outside.
yeah, well, I mean, we can move forward with negotiating and finalizing and having meetings, I mean,
So, hold on, let me just, do we have a specific date in October when the first house will be like
no.
ready? We don't.
No, I mean, we're saying like end of October for Cheektowaga, and that means November, right? That it'll be up. So, I mean, we
Yeah,
can.
so another board meeting, yeah.
We didn't know Belmont was gonna submit until Monday or, we had no idea of that.
So the first,
We can start.
generally speaking, then the first paragraph, so generally speaking, the first resolved is okay. Come back to the second resolve in a second. The third resolve looks like it would be okay. And then the fourth resolve should be okay, because that's approving to sign off on a contract. So the second resolve, is there any proposed language for that?
I would make 2 amendments to the second resolved, which would be an amount not to exceed $10,000, knowing that this will come back to the board. And I would actually add a resolve that says, resolve that a buyer's realtor fee will be offered with proof of an exclusivity contract at 2%.
Signed before the date.
Saying, yes, sign before the date of the law.
Pre-existing, none of
Yeah.
pre-existing.
Might encourage people to, or encourage realtors to have their, have everybody sign exclusivity agreements.
I mean, they're already doing that. Every realtor I know, and I unfortunately have a lot of realtor friends, they all have, they won't show you a house without it. They won't talk to you about it.
Right.
And so it's really
It's so weird.
it was
Yeah.
that lawsuit.
Yeah.
They're not showing anyone anything.
Yeah.
So I don't think somebody who finds these houses through Facebook is gonna go to a realtor and say, hey, can you help me with this? Which I think is it really gonna encourage realtors to do that? No, I think it's just going to allow realtors who have existing clients to show these houses, and so that the clients that have signed those are not coming out of pocket $5,000 because we want to save that money.
it will theoretically prevent that realtor from not showing this particular house. Because they're gonna be guaranteed the money, not from their client, but from us,
Yeah, and then they can turn to their client for whatever gap,
if there's a gap.
if they choose.
And I would flip the 4 and 5.
That's fine,
Because they're
whatever.
contract signing at the end, but Catherine, you had
So I'm looking at Belmont's proposal. It talks about an online automated system for the lottery. We talk about lottery administration here. I am not super familiar with lottery systems, but, do we feel comfortable with some ambiguous system? Can these things be hacked? Is someone gonna say I got cheated? Is there like a specific system we should call out?
You do your section 8.
Yeah,
letter.
so we have done it online. What we could propose is that we have it when we do it. We can run a Zoom meeting, so if people would want to join and see the program,
Okay.
we'll explain it to everybody, that the lottery is gonna be held on this date. It's using the X system, that does an automated system. It'll be shown, online and give them the link to.
Great.
Jocelyn, you said you bet that.
Well, not built.
Yeah. And when I worked at BMHA, we did our section 8 lottery online through a random number generator as well. It is just the way these types of things are going. I'm comfortable with them.
Yeah, no, as long as
Yeah.
if it's online, it's fine,
And
but
yeah.
you wouldn't want anyone to be,
And you do a Zoom, so anyone who wants to see if their number is called can't.
Yeah.
Well, what I was saying was, I think here we're approving the concept, we're approving a lottery.
Yeah.
But we will.
But
we
particular-
that process
Right.
with the board.
Right, the lottery's not gonna happen
Right.
before our next meeting.
No,
If-
no.
At the next meeting, we could just kind of walk through what an example of what it looks like, because I was kind of looking for ping pong balls and. Bingo, come on.
Do a visual, I'm sure they have that.
I think something fun. I think
Yeah.
fun, yeah.
I think we have for automation, we would.
Yeah, I
get
think we had
somebody who is
enough information that we're able to now proceed with a resolution that, I'll offer it going forward. So first paragraph as is, with the 110,000 as opposed to the 110.5. The second paragraph, Nadine had the 10,000 in the flat area, in the dollar figure area. We'll move out the realtor referral fees to a separate resolved. The next resolved as is that the board of directors hereby authorizes the sale of ARPA Infill. Then the fourth resolved with the realtor referral fees, the language you have.
That a buyer's referral fee will be offered at 2% with proof of an pre-existing exclusivity contract. And, or similar language that the buyer's realtor, contracts.
Yeah, I think we leave it at that, because
Yeah.
if we're going to eventually amend it anyways, if there's an issue, we can amend it from there.
I don't want to, I don't want to stick a caught in the language of it.
And then the last resolved as is that the resolution approving the contract for Belmont Housing Services of Western New York shall take effect immediately. Is there a second?
So push it in room.
A second. Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
There's nobody who made the vote.
I did. Jeremy Sal.
And
I just have a general question on newspaper postings. Does the municipal government get a break on the
Oh,
cost?
God.
No?
No, that's where they're making their money on. They don't have it. Do you know how expensive the HUD ones are? Because you have to do them as an ad. You can't do them in legal notices. Those things are like $5,000 for an ad that's this big.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Was there anything else, Justin?
No, I think we did everything else, before.
Anybody wish to stick around? Anybody want to leave? Motion.
I do have a strange question.
She's
We're
going to the game, I got
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I learned science will be. You know, question.